But it's crazy, like everyone has that box of cables where they're like, do I ever need these cables? No. But will I keep them until I die? Yes, because what if you need it one day? And we're looking at that box of cables being like, okay, do we ship these?
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Shaun, and visit the website, thegermanyexperience.de, or you can send me an email, info@thegermanyexperience.de. So welcome to it. You would have noticed, probably, if you are a subscriber to the podcast, that there hasn't been an episode in December, and that's because I've been taking a bit of an extended break over December. There's been a lot going on, both professionally and also in my private life. So in order to just kind of make time for some things, I've had to take some time away from the podcast. I know things haven't been so consistent here for the Germany Experience, but I hope you're bearing with me, and yeah, we'll hopefully get back to some kind of rhythm sometime in 2023. Now, in this episode, I'm joined by Nicole of the Expat Cast, my former rival. And the reason she's joining me, there's two reasons. You will know if you listen to the last episode that we're doing our annual charity drive as we always do, Nicole of the Expat Cast and me. This year it's called Forgipadfo. And we're going to be talking a bit about that, Nicole and I. And the second reason she's joining me is that she has some very, very, very big news to share. She is leaving Germany, which is a big move for her, but she explains everything in the episode, so I'm not going to spoil it here. I just am very honored that I got to talk to her about this. And it's an episode that's going out on her feed as well, the Expat Cast. The exact same interview is airing on her channel. So you might want to go and take a listen to her intro, but it's the same interview that you're going to hear here. But first, before we even get to Nicole, I have a bit of news. I am starting a new podcast. It's with Nina, who you will know from the German Experience. She's been on as a frequent guest, and you also might know that we did a German podcast together this year. But now we are switching to English. We're stopping the German podcast and we're starting a new podcast in English, which is called Everyday Germany, and it's focused on our observations of life in Germany. So it's both from her perspective as a German and from mine as a foreigner who's been here for a while. And we talk about things like German culture and the German language and just, like I said, some observations from our lives here in Germany. There are links to the podcast in the show notes. Here's a quick preview for the podcast. I'm Shaun, originally from South Africa, but living in Germany, and with me
is Nina from Germany, still living in Germany.
And we're hosting a podcast about life in Germany, and we talk about Germany and our lives here. So subscribe to this podcast, get it wherever you get your podcasts, and episodes will be launching soon. So go and subscribe. You can go to everydaygermany.de for more information and to subscribe. It should be available in the podcast players that you're using. So do a search for Everyday Germany. If it doesn't come up, go to everydaygermany.de. There should be some links there. And there is now an introduction episode, and the episodes will start from beginning of January. I would love it if you joined us every week for Everyday Germany. All right, now Nicole and I we'll talk about this year's charity drive in our discussion, but I'd like to quickly mention it here first before we start. As I mentioned, we're not rivals this year. We are working together to raise money for Krisenchat, which has a project to provide psychosocial emergency aid to Ukrainian children and adolescents. It's a great cause. It's providing help to people who really need it at this time of the year, and we've set ourselves a goal of 500 euros this year combined. Now, Nicole and I have both donated, and I will tell you, we're on our way to meeting the 500 euros. We have already gotten 205 euros worth of donations, which I think is amazing, and thank you so much to everyone who has donated so far. That is incredible. So go to the show notes, and you'll find a link to where you can donate there in the show notes, or you can go to thegermanyexperience.de/p/charity 2022. And yeah, it would mean so much if you donated. Like I said, thank you to everyone who has donated already. I would love to hit this total by Christmas. 500 euros. Come on, 300 euros. And you don't even have to give that much. It doesn't. Every little bit counts. Just go, click the link, and get donating. Okay, so that's all of that. Now let's get on to Nicole, where she's going to discuss, like I said, this charity drive, but also the big news and the big changes that she is making in her life. Here's Nicole. Hey, Nicole, what's happening?
Hi, Shaun. We don't know what we're doing so well, but we're figuring it out.
We're figuring out. Sorry to if I just dropped you into a conversation there, but we started talking. And I suddenly realized I had no idea how I wanted to get into the conversation, so I just said hi.
The thing is, it's completely new territory for both of us because usually we're going into any interaction, with like steam coming out of our ears, anger, rivalry fresh in the air, and this whole kind, warm, hey, how are you doing, Shaun? It's awkward. It's new,
It is. We're still trying to get used to this new kind of like non-rivalry at Christmas time. It feels kind of empty. So that gets us to our first topic, really. We can just jump in right there because we got, as we do every year, and I think this is this is the fourth time that we've done this, Folgepedfo, which stands for the fourth ever German expat
podcasters
Advent
donation
charity face-off. Donations. I can't believe I've been doing this for 4 years and I still don't know it. And you know what? That's not a bit. I literally can never remember what it stands for. I can never remember.
I always mess it up when I'm mentioning it in an episode, and I go to like edit it out, and then I'm like, no, Nicole, you did this to yourself. Leave that in.
You named this thing back 4 years ago, so yeah, you deal with it.
You said
I deal
great
with it
idea.
I did. But I am very bad at knowing what good ideas are and what bad ideas are. But anyway, so this is the fourth one we do. And what we usually do the past 3 years is we have a rivalry where we have a competition. Because, we're sworn rivals. We know that like we're in the same podcast space. And that, you can't be in the same podcast space without being bitter rivals, I think
That's true. That's what they told me at the
that's the rule.
Inauguration ceremony for podcasters that we all go to.
Yes, that's right. I think that's where it came up. And then I realized, we have to always be rivals. And so we always had a competition to see who raised the most money. But we decided that this year we're just going to work together.
Yeah, changes in the air, and we're embracing it. And part of the side effects of that is we're just buddies now. We're just two podcasters sharing the same space peacefully and happily. So instead of competing to see who can raise more money for the charity or for our charity, because we've also done separate ones, we said, what if we just see how much we can earn combined by being nice to each other? Also, I was completely out of trash talk. I had like 3 points ever, and I used them all the first year.
That is one thing I will say. I do miss this year is your notoriously bad trash talk. I did enjoy that. That was always a highlight because I knew that Nicole's trash talk was going to be really entertaining. Let's put it that way.
I'll miss it. But as said, onwards to newer and friendlier things. So it's nice to be a colleague rather than a rival. I'll have to change your name in my phone. I don't know if we've ever said this on air, but when we met up for a drink a couple years ago, so like you saw that your name in my phone is Shaun has a rival podcast, and the last part is just one word, last name, and that is how I saved your number years ago. And I guess I'll have to update it to Shaun has a additional wonderful non-competitive podcast.
What would be cooler is if this alliance that we formed falls apart before Christmas and we're like bitter rivals again, but it's real and like we hate each other so much and there's all trash talk. But anyway,
that would be kind of amazing. But let's hope it doesn't happen.
That'd be good podcast stuff. Anyway, yes.
Folgepodfo, this year we are raising money for a crisis chat hotline of sorts for Ukrainian children and youth. And this episode is coming out on December 22nd, and Folgepodfo goes until Christmas. Honestly, also after, if you would like to, you can always donate to this cause. But no, for our purposes, till Christmas. So you still have a couple days. We would love it if a couple more donations come in. Do you want to explain a little bit about how the charity works?
Yeah, so we're doing it through betterplace.org, which runs sort of they host a platform where people can make donations to charities, and then charities submit their projects to betterplace.org, and that's where we are and we've set it up, and you can go to so it's called Chat, the project that we're working on, and as Nicole said, they do counseling support for Ukrainian, specifically younger Ukrainians, and they have more than 300 Ukrainian and Russian speaking psychologists that volunteer to support this psychosocial, as they call it, support. So I think it's a very cool thing, especially now. I think a lot of what's happening is going to have long-term effects on the minds of a lot of people, adults as well, but specifically younger people. Like, we don't know what they're seeing, we don't know what they're going through, especially ones that have been displaced. There's a lot of trauma and difficulty out there, and I think this time of year it gets even more tough dealing with these kinds of things. So we both thought this was a really cool thing to give back to. And what you can do is, we've got some links in the show notes that'll take you to the place where you want to do it. Or you can go to thegermanyexperience.de/p/charity 2022. I don't know why that P is there, but that's what the website provider that I use makes me do when I add a new page. So.
And also props to you. Look, a compliment. Look at me go. Props to you for making the URL charity 2022 and not Fogapodfo, and then just saying good luck, figure out how to spell it. Because plot twist, we're spelling it with a 4.
Yes. Dude, we're just mixing it up, and we don't care about people finding it at all. No, all the links are in both in the show notes, wherever you're listening to this, because this is going to go out on my feed and on Nicole's feed as well. So wherever you're listening to this, links are in the show notes.
It's a shared episode. Like, it's just such it's such a nice, cozy environment we're fostering right now.
It's really wild. Crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still coming to. I don't know if I like it yet. We have to see how this develops.
It is not comfortable, to be clear.
So did we say all we need to say about the Ukrainian or Chat and thing? I think we've got everything out there.
I think so. Another thing I wanted to mention that I just like about it is, like, it just functions very straightforwardly. Like, it's all over WhatsApp. So another thing that drew me to this charity is knowledge firsthand and through other people of how difficult it can be to find counseling and therapy, especially in your mother tongue in Germany, and to have it paid for. And this service, of course, is that much easier. So it's just, you just contact a WhatsApp line, you get help in your mother tongue. And I think that's really amazing, especially considering how, unfortunately, how scattered many Ukrainian families are. It's irrelevant from, it doesn't depend on location. It doesn't depend on bureaucracy. It's just quick and easy and straightforward. So,
yeah. Sure, it's a really cool initiative, and yeah, we're happy to be supporting it.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to go and get donating if you haven't yet. Just do it. Just do it. We set a goal of 500 euros, and I'm not sure if we've met it or not because we're recording this a little bit in advance. I hope we're close to meeting it by the time this episode goes up. But just go and donate. Yeah, so that is the charity challenge for this year. So thanks to everyone who has donated so far as well. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us.
Absolutely.
But that's not all we want to talk about today, Nicole. We got some other topics. We got some other things.
Just a couple things.
And I think we can go. You spoke about change earlier. You said change is afoot. And being the podcaster that you are, I can smell a transition when it's been put out there. So change is afoot, and I know that some big changes are coming for you. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can make some announcements or tell everyone what's happening with you.
Yeah. So a couple things are happening in my life at the moment. A little peek behind the curtain of recording today. We're recording in Monday morning. And well, first when we got online, I had to ask Shaun if my microphone is working because it's a completely different microphone setup than normal. And also this morning I was like running a little late because I'd used a French press that basically exploded all over me, and I was like scattering to find my supplies for coffee. And the reason I don't have my normal mics and the reason I don't have my normal coffee setup is because I just packed a bunch of my stuff because it's going to be shipped per ship. It's a shipment, literally.
It's literally a shipment.
Because I'm moving. Away from Germany, over an ocean, not to the United States where I'm from. I'm moving to South America, to Paraguay soon. Yeah, I mean, soon enough that my things are in pallets right now. Yeah, so that's the big reveal, and it's been very complicated and different than moving to Germany. The circumstances are also different. I guess maybe like a little like bullet point overview of like who, what, where, when, why. Yeah, so I'm going sometime early next year, probably March, and I'll be in Paraguay for at least 2 years, maybe a couple years more than that. It's sort of to be decided. And then after that, I'll be back in Germany, back in the state that I currently am living in, probably most likely, but definitely Germany. So it's a temporary move, different than last time. I'm going basically more or less because my partner has a job there, and that's why also like the contract is 2 years. We could extend it, so we'll see. And yeah, unfortunately, it's, you know, I'm moving away from a place where I don't have full legal rights, and I'm also coming back to it. So that's also been like very strange and complicated compared to my previous move from the US to Germany, because I was moving from the country I'm from where I have legal rights, I have family, I have a lot of support there. It's totally different going from a place where you don't have like, you know, your uncle's place down the road that you can like store a bunch of your stuff at, and I have to go to like every single insurance and agency and be like, hey, I'm an immigrant, I'm leaving, but actually I'm going, like, it's a bit more complicated, but I'm going through Germany. Like my partner's job is under the German government, so we're going like very much for Germany as German representatives, more or less. So yeah, explaining that to them, and then being like, also I'm coming back, and I would like to maintain all of the things that I've worked so hard for these last 5 years. God. Can you help me? It's going really well. You can imagine how many friendly, smiling faces I've got.
Can only imagine this process for you.
Yeah, so that's a quick overview. I don't know. Yeah.
But the point that you're at now, it's all done. You've gone through all the bureaucracy. You've got all the Bescheinigungen and the whatevers, and it's happening.
Not even close.
Okay. But your stuff is already packed, Nicole.
Yeah, my stuff is packed. Everything's going to happen, but it's just like, it's just a process on a process on a process, you know? So, you know, like there's always Kündigungsfristen, which are like your notice, like your cancellation notice dates that can be different depending on your work, the type of contract it is. Because we're going via the German government, there's like an additional round. I mean, it's amazing. We're getting a lot of support through his job. That's awesome. But it's, German bureaucracy, like every amazing benefit comes with like 30 hours and buckets of tears of, you know, battling the German bureaucracy. So I'm still in the throes of a lot of that, I would say. Yeah. But it's all going to happen. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, there's plans and there's, it seems like things will work out, but I just feel like every week I'm going to a different appointment. And keep in mind also, like I have to get certain vaccinations to be able to enter the country. And of course, that's also not just like a one-stop shop. It's running around town, figuring out who can give me this vaccination, that vaccination. And yeah, so it's like all of these little details, and none of them are straightforward. So every time it's like explaining yourself, getting not exceptions. It's them finding like the right series of events that can allow what you're asking for. Yeah.
Wow. That is, plus you've got a job that's going on at the same time as doing all this. So you have a job, and you're at the same time trying to deal with all the bureaucracy and appointments and getting everything agreed. So yeah, I can imagine things are
and I mean,
crazy.
It's essentially almost like two jobs, you know, like the podcast, it's not full-time work, but it's, I don't even know how many hours I spend on that per week, but a good chunk, and keeping that alive has been really, honestly, really challenging these last couple of months, but I feel dedicated and committed to doing it. So I'm going to definitely see it through to the end of the season, but that's been really difficult doing my day job, which is full-time and also hasn't been the easiest. I think a lot of places around Germany are experiencing a lot of shifts, you know, whether it be people going into retirement, people switching jobs after this like pandemic time made them think about their life differently. Sickness, there's so many people missing from work because they're sick, be it COVID or something else. So, you know, work's, I think across the board for a lot of people been really stressful, and and then on top of it, the podcast, and then on top of it, all of this kind of stuff, and
it's a lot.
Yeah. And the other thing is, my partner is also, he's German in the sense of citizenship, but he is also an immigrant, so he also doesn't have family here. So he's got the more of the legal rights, but like we've had to literally, I mean, this weekend it was so crazy. We were literally going through our apartment and picking up every item we own and being like, okay, my choices are, do I ship it to Paraguay or do I never want to see it again in my life?
There's nothing in between.
Yeah, there's like a tiny percentage of things that we're storing at a friend's house. But, almost all of my friends are very transient people and also living in cities with tiny basements. And so I can't burden them with like the stuff I just like having. It's not very practical. So, but it's crazy, like everyone has that box of cables where they're like, do I ever need these cables? No. But will I keep them until I die? Yes. Because what if you need it one day? And we're looking at that box of cables being like, okay, do we ship these? Also, what kind of outlets do they have in Paraguay? Let's Google that. Because, by the way, neither of us has ever been to the country before.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's been to the continent. He's been to Colombia, but that's a different country. So, yeah, very limited knowledge about the place we're going to. And then, trying to make these kind of decisions. And, like, of course, everything has a price. So if I do say, no, I definitely need my box of cables, then I'm paying some fee to, like, ship that to Paraguay.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
My goodness. So, I've got so many questions for you, Nicole. I don't even know where to start with my question, but I think I'll start with this one. First of all, I think I just assumed that your partner was from Paraguay, but it's so amazing that neither of you have seen the country and that you're moving there. That's pretty brave.
Yeah. It's sorry, I just opened the window because, by the way, we also have a cat who's coming with us.
Oh,
so that's also been an entire process. Charlie, you got to come in or out.
Make up mine, Charlie.
Okay, you're staying out.
All right, Charlie. You made your choices.
He's going to beg to come in 2 seconds. So no, he's not from Paraguay. The way it all was structured, we ended up with some level of choice of like, where do we want to go? And Paraguay was appealing because it's right in the middle of South America. So benefit and downside is it's one of, I think, 2 countries that does not have any access to the ocean. So it's landlocked. Most of South America is not. So, of course, it would be cool to live somewhere close to the beach. But we'll sacrifice it. That'll be okay. Yeah. It's going to be an amazing jumping off point to travel and see a lot of different places in South America. It's also more, it's not a place a lot of people even visit. Like tourism is just not that big there. And I think for both of us, that appeals to us. Like we're interested in somewhere that we're really going to be like, maybe not fully integrated. Who knows? I mean, I could hope for that. But I know, I'll have to learn Spanish. They also have a second official language there called Guarani. And this is the indigenous language and it's still widely spoken. So, I mean, I'm not starting to learn Guarani quite yet because I think Spanish is maybe a bit easier to find courses for when you're living in Germany. So, but I am starting to learn Spanish and I know I'll need it, and I don't know, there's just something appealing about going somewhere that you don't know much about. I mean, what's also crazy is like researching it is difficult. There's just, I mean, it's not like Germany where you put in move to Germany and you get our podcasts and 5 others and all these websites and blogs and whatever. You put it in and you get like information about doing a digital nomad thing there, which is not what our situation is. It's a bit hard to find anything about the place. So
yeah, it's crazy to think. Like you say, we're just so used to having all of these resources at our fingertips, and you're going to have to cope without having that benefit. You like I see that the travel is a benefit that you're looking forward to, but like. Isn't there an element of like, oh God, I've got to do this all again? Learning a culture, learning a new language, everything that you've gotten yourself to a certain point in Germany, like you were saying earlier. You've worked so hard for a lot of things. You've got a stable setup going on, and now suddenly it's almost like you're going back to the start in some ways, even though it's temporary.
Yeah, that's feel like true. Okay, so there's the thing about my personality that at this point I should probably just start embracing, which is like I basically am just constantly going through the cycle of like being in a really challenging situation, having to like bust my butt to like get past it and get through it. It having like an era where I'm like, oh my God, I finally am kind of stable. I can enjoy myself. And then I start to get bored. And then I'm like, okay, well, like, what's the new challenge? Because I can't just keep doing this. And yeah, it frustrates me about myself sometimes because I think on some level, I wonder, like, do I the cycle's able to repeat itself because I put myself back in a situation where everything's really difficult. And sometimes I wonder, like, am I doing that? Am I like self-sabotaging in some way? But I think usually no. Usually it's just like life circumstances. Like an example of a time like that was with grad school, and paying for education in the US was insanely expensive and challenging. And like, I can't do anything for the fact that the US has a terrible system, and so that was an example of a challenge. Another example was like going through the breakup because I moved here with a boyfriend, not the person I'm moving to Paraguay with. So a couple years ago, I went through kind of having to rebuild my life here, no longer with that person. Of course, the pandemic. So a lot of these things are sort of just life things or things out of my control. So anyway, I'm working on embracing that part of myself because it seems to be a part of my life anyway. And obviously here I did have a choice. Here I think it's way less self-destructive. I think it's actually sort of productive in a way, because something I guess I started talking more openly about in the last year is that I've been having a really difficult time with like the German people in some kind of large, broad sense. And I think it has a lot to do with my job. So I work in a public-facing career in a library where I'm dealing with like a certain percentage of the population it's just challenging. And like, it's a lot about the specifics of my job, which I won't get into, but like I work with the most challenging population at that library. And it hasn't been easy as a young woman with an accent. Like it's very present to me every day that like these identities are like very much not what the person across from me wants to be dealing with. And they don't trust me and they don't respect me. And that's just been getting to me. And I know it's not like, I don't like when I say the German people, because I think like, I know it's coming from this one environment and I don't want to extrapolate, but that's been so much of my experience. And then sometimes other experiences outside my workplace have gone similarly, or like I've had similar experiences. And then at some point I start to think like, Jesus, like it's very difficult. And I used to think that my German just wasn't good enough. I wasn't integrated enough to like understand the nonverbal communication. And like, folks, I'm there, and I'm still not enjoying my experience. And like, I went through a whole era where I feel like I became a way worse person because I was like reflecting and like absorbing those behaviors. And and it's really difficult because I also still love Germany, and I love a lot of the people. Like on an individual level, it's never been the problem. One-on-one, it's people are incredible, and I know that more represents society, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have these negative stereotypes, but I can just feel them building, and I'm trying really hard to work against them. But I'm also trying to admit, like, I didn't get here from nowhere. Like I got othered and I got disrespected and all this kind of stuff repeatedly for a long enough time that I started to form negative opinions. And that's so, yeah, it's a tricky balance between like, I guess, validating my experience, but also not letting that be the be all end all, and understanding that that's also just a limited experience. So yeah, anyway, that all to say, we'll be going abroad, as said, like, through the German government. Will be involved in a German community there, just people who live there that are in the German world there. And I'm happy that I'm coming back to Germany in a couple years. I think this is going to be a really good break, like a really big reset. Just get some space. And there's so many benefits. Like all of the behaviors that bother me have benefits. Like for instance, I went to this Christmas market the other night. It's up in the Black Forest. It's one of my favorite ones. Rovanischlucht, if anyone's in the area, go. It's incredible. And yeah, I had some visitors here, and I was explaining to them earlier in the day how, like, yeah, I'm getting kind of frustrated by the rule followingness of Germans and how you can get yelled at for like walking the street like walking or biking or something incorrectly, even if it's kind of innocuous. And it doesn't actually put anyone in danger, but it's wrong, so you get yelled at, and that bothers me. But there's like and I was explaining too how like sometimes it bothers me you can't be too productive because there's always a system and a process you have to look at and you have to follow. And sometimes I feel like, can't we just move forward? Like, no, we have to think about every possibility and be prepared for every possibility, and then we can say yes to a plan, right? So I'm complaining about all of this. We get to the Christmas market. My friend goes to go to the bathroom, and she comes back like, shocked looking. And she was like, I don't know what I just saw, but someone's having some kind of like medical episode. I don't know if she's okay. And like, she was so freaked out. We walked by like a couple minutes later, like, kind of talked to her. I was like, I'm sure that there's an EMT there. Da, da, da. Yeah, we walked by to go, because she had to go to the bathroom. So we still had to walk by it. And I went with her this time. It was just a matter of minutes, but there's already paramedics there talking to this person. We see the ambulance working its way up the hill. I mean, when you need something, like, this is an incredible place to be, because there are infrastructures for all of that. And there's people who are trained, like, they have thought about what happens if at this location someone has a seizure. What do we do? Yeah. They know exactly what to do. And that's amazing.
Exactly. They've thought of the most of the eventualities, and they have processes that be followed regarding whatever happens on the day. And things that might never happen, but if they do, they got them covered.
Exactly. And I think right now it's hard for me, other than those extreme moments, to like see the benefits of this mindset. And I know logically, I know it's not that way, but I can't feel appreciative of it when I'm just like putting my glass in the glass container 5 minutes after the cutoff that's written on the sign, like, it's just like, stuff like that really just drives me nuts. And I'm ready for it to be like a funny, oh, it drives me nuts, instead of like, and it makes me think really of this one time where I was really, So I think, anyway, this is probably a lot typical for me, long-winded answer, just to say, like, yeah, part of me feels like, oh my God, am I really doing all of this again? And do I want that? But I do want that. And I want that also because it's different. Like, it's not the same. I'm not immigrating there permanently. It's a temporary break. It's a chance to learn a new culture and a new language. I have way less pressure on myself than last time too. Like, I'm not planning to get fluent enough to work in a public library within 6 months. Like, that was my mindset coming to Germany, and that's just not my mindset with this. So all of these changes make it feel like more possible. And then those parts of my personality that led me to take the leap and move here, like the openness to new experiences and adventure and new cultures, the desire to learn languages, even though I'm like technically not that good at it. Like, I'm like re-tapping into those parts of myself in a way that's really nice and exciting, and like gives me a bit more life, and I think that's something I've struggled with lately, is feeling like just down and out and not wanting to like try new things, because I'm like, I just do it wrong anyway, and everyone here cares a lot if you do things right or wrong, and they're telling me it's bad that I'm wrong all the time, so
I know what you mean. I think that's something that I feel a lot as well. I know exactly what you mean, and like, I also go through varied stages of how I feel about the Germans. Like, I go through phases exactly what you're talking about. I've been here for 15 years, and I can tell you, I still go through phases where I think like what do we do? Why are we even bothering with this mindset and this attitude and so on? So I totally get what you're saying about that. So I'm going to ask a question that's probably on a lot of people's minds. So if this is all going on, what is happening with the Expat Cast?
It's a very good question. I don't know. The big thing that is definite is that I'm going to keep putting episodes out. It might maybe I should just take a break, because I clearly need one. But I don't know. I said, I knew going into the season that this probably would be happening at the same time, and I decided to do it, and I just want to see it through. So I'm going to make it through to the end of the season by some way.
When's the end of the season planned?
I think it's like March or April. So around when I'm moving.
So pretty much when you're leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So it'll keep happening, but I don't know what's going to happen with it next, because I can see, I want to just be open. Like, another thing that really appeals to me with this move is how open it is. It feels freeing in a lot of ways, and I want to embrace that. So on one hand, another thing is I've been really, really struggling with the name of my podcast for a while now, and being like, I don't know about that term expat. I don't know if that's even what I'm doing, because I'm mostly sticking to interviewing people in Germany. Should I change it? Whatever. But I keep not changing it because life's incredibly busy, and rebranding an entire podcast, if you want to do it like kind of properly, it's difficult. And I don't have an idea yet. Like, I don't have another idea. So if I did, maybe I could have done it, but I really would have had to think, how can I account for this? I just can't take it on at this point. So anyway, I could see moving and having a bit more time in my life, and having, honestly, less of a life there. Like, in Freiburg, the issue the last couple seasons, honestly, has just been, I have such an established and busy life, and I love doing the podcast. I love those conversations, but the work behind it is so much that I've thought even in the past about like, am I maybe almost done with this? Just because my life is pulling my attention in other directions, and it's almost holding me back. But so far the balance has always been it's given me enough that I want to stick around and stick to it. When I move, it could be the case, like, I don't have friends there yet. I'm figuring it all out. It's nice to, like, have a project that really roots you and grounds you and is consistent. And at that point, I will be much more living sort of an expat life of, like, having more of a list of countries I've lived in and, like, more experience in different parts of the world. And, like, this temporary aspect is, like, really present, you know? So it could make more sense to stick with it. I've by and large stuck to interviewing people related to the German-speaking world just because I feel like that's what I understand, that's what I know, or I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to know. And I don't know if I could effectively interview someone who's from Singapore and lives in Mozambique. Like, I don't know if I could do a good job with that. So I'm open to it if we're talking about a topic that's sort of more universal, but I don't want to I don't want to just miss an entire set of questions that are obvious to someone who knows that culture or those cultures. So anyway, that's why it's been Germany so far. By that measure, I could also have a Paraguay chapter, you know, or a South America chapter, you know, like then I'll have more firsthand experience and feel a bit more comfortable asking questions. I don't have a job lined up there, so I will be making some kind of career transition, and it's possible that I could pursue part-time work and then have literal time that is missing from my life currently to work on this podcast. Like right now it's nights, it's weekends, it's waking up early to squeeze it in before going to my day job, and it's not sustainable. And there I could build it into my system, I guess is what I'm wanting to say. And in that case, I probably would pursue partnerships more. I've done it in the past, but I've never really like gone for it full hog. And I guess that would be a possibility, and maybe it would work. On the other hand, maybe I'm ready. Like, maybe I'm just ready to move on, and I'm not sure. I have had like 4 other ideas for podcasts since starting to question this, and those other ideas sound so fun, and there's just no way I could do that and this, you know? And also, a big love of mine has always been writing, and I've written a couple books, but I never published them because I was too afraid, and it was years ago, you know? So I didn't know how to stick to a task as an individual. And now through doing the podcast, having this practice, knowing like how to stay on task, how to stay motivated, I think I could do it on a planning level. I don't know if my writing is good enough to do anything with it, but honestly, if you ask me right now today, December 2022, what do I want to do? Like, I'd rather write than keep doing this podcast and just see if that could be something. And this is like a unique moment in my life where I probably can sort of financially afford to pursue that. So I don't know. But like, I'm not ready to make any decisions. I have very little idea of what my life will look like. I said, I don't even know what I'm going to do for work. I'm definitely going to work. I just am so overwhelmed with planning right now that I can't think about it yet. And honestly, by the way, South American culture generally, but Paraguayan culture for sure, they're like, just show up and talk to people. Like, it's not like Germany where you're like, well, you need to have emails dating 6 months back and like, da-da-da. If I tried to email someone right now, I don't think that they would care because they're like, well, you're not even here. Like, talk to me in April. So, anyway, for various reasons, I don't have something lined up yet. So I just, it's hard to say. So long, very honest answer. We'll see. Stay tuned.
All right. Keep listening. It is kind of exciting to think that you can go to a new place and use all this knowledge that you've learned from Germany, from dealing with making friends, learning languages, not being able to communicate or express yourself. Like you've done all of that, you've learned all of that, and now you get to apply it to a new situation. That's kind of exciting, actually.
Yeah.
It's almost like, let's do this.
It's just so different going into another move when you kind of know how it is. Like, for instance, this whole sea shipment business, that's something I've never done before. And it's so clear to me and my partner that we don't know like what we're doing. We're learning on the fly. And like, for instance, we bought some pallets and they're supposed to come and pick them up in a couple of days. And we were like, okay, we're going to spend the whole weekend preparing the pallets. And then Saturday noon, we're like, wait, if we load them in our living room, they can't fit through a door.
Yeah.
Where do we load these pallets that they can still come pick them up? How are they even picking them up? What kind of tools do they have or machines?
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, I have no idea how this works. And we have no driveway or like courtyard or something. So stuff like that, like it's just like, oh Jesus, I don't know.
Nightmare.
And but then in contrast, the other things that I have done before, I'm like, okay, I feel like I know how learning Spanish works. I don't know Spanish, but I know how to learn a language. So I can do that. And it's cool. It's nice to feel like, I don't know, I almost like, I was thinking of how people always talk about their weddings and they're like, you learn so much about planning a wedding and then you never need the information again. I feel like that way about moving abroad because like I learned all the stuff, but then I stayed put and I didn't need it again. And now I'm like, cool, it was worth something. Like I know this is easier now.
Yeah, very cool. So we're running out of time, Nicole, but I want to ask you one last question. What do you think you'll miss the most about Germany?
Oh gosh. I immediately thought the bread, but there is a German bakery in Paraguay that I'll like in this part that I'll be living in, and I confirmed that already. So my next answer is just the nature. I mean, especially with Freiburg, I have been on record being like, how could I possibly move ever anywhere else when I look out my window and there's that hill, that mountain I can go to, you know? Yeah. That's still true. Like I still really struggle with that. It's just everything else said yes. You know, everything else about the situation sounded right. Sure. So I'm going to find out if I can live without my hills, my mountains. We'll see. I'll report back. But, or maybe I won't. We don't know. It's just, oh God, sorry.
We don't know. Who knows what's happening at this point? Maybe you'll never hear from Nicole again.
Just disappear off the deep end. Yeah, I think, you know, be it being able to walk on foot to the Black Forest or take a train up and really be in like the deep woods, that's going to be so difficult to be away from. And of course, there's amazing nature in Paraguay. But first off, it's a very different climate and kind of lay of the land, and it's much more flat, at least where I'll be. And public transit's just a different question there. I mean, it's not built out like it is here. So it's going to be a different challenge to connect to nature in that same way. And maybe it'll be fine. Like other versions of this could also be great. I just don't know yet. So I'm open to it, but I think that's going to be really difficult. And like the priority people here all put on like, get out and go on a walk. That's your activity for the day. That's amazing.
It's a big thing here, but I'm sure you'll get a lot of nature and everything in travels because I mean it's a beautiful continent that you'll be traveling on. So
yeah, exactly.
A lot of opportunities in travels at least, if not on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. We're wrapping up, right?
Yeah.
Can I like flip the script super spontaneously and do my ending segment on you right now? The Zacks.
Ooh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can flip it.
So since this is a shared episode, I figured why not dive in? I always end my episodes with a rapid fire question round called Zack, where I ask my guests 3 questions that they answer without overthinking it. They just go with their gut. And now I'm going to ask you, Shaun, are you ready?
Okay. I'm terrible at these, by the way. I'm always terrible at these. But yes, hit me.
Fun fact, I didn't have this idea until right now, so I don't have them. I'm making them up on the fly.
Okay.
What is your favorite snack at a Christmas market?
Favorite snack? Does Feuerzangenbowle count? Does it have to be something you can eat?
Sure.
I would say I was at a Christmas market just on the weekend. There's a little Christmas market in one of the small villages nearby to me, and they had something Knobibrot, which is like garlic on bread, but they literally just put it on toast like it's a slice of bread. They put the garlic on, and then they melted some cheese over it, and that was it. And it like kind of all melted into it. It was so delicious. So I was like, I've never had that at a Weihnachtsmarkt, but it was very cool. But otherwise, I do like a bratwurst at a Weihnachtsmarkt. Nice. I just kind of like that's what I think of when I go to a Weihnachtsmarkt to eat. And Feuerzangenbowle.
Very good. Pairs well together as well.
It's lovely with a good Feuerzangenbowle. Yeah.
What is your favorite Christmas song?
Oh God! You know what? Since I was a teenager, I was a massive, and this is going to be embarrassing to admit, but I was a huge Mariah Carey fan.
Yes.
As a teenager. It's very embarrassing. Like all my friends were listening to Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins and all these very very legitimately cool bands, and I was stuck on pouring through Mariah Carey's B-sides and the rarities and stuff. It's nice. Like it's very. But when she released a Christmas album, young teenage Shaun was absolutely through the moon, and she did some great things. So that All I Want for Christmas, which is like such a stereotypical Christmas song, and it's overplayed and whatever else. I do not get tired of that song. I get tired of almost every other Christmas song, but All I Want for Christmas from Mariah Carey, I do not get tired. And just to let everyone know, my music taste did develop over the years after that. Just so everyone knows.
That's incredible because you could have just said that song and people would have been like, yeah, but I love that you just outed yourself as a Mariah Carey fan. I think that's amazing.
Suppose I didn't have to, right?
Yeah.
Damn it.
All right. And finally, what is one thing that you're wishing for Christmas this year?
Oh gosh, one thing that I'm wishing for Christmas. I would like things to be. I mean, it's so cheesy as well, but I really would like things to be a bit better next year in the world.
Yeah.
In general. I mean, it's so cheesy to say that. Oh, like I want world peace and stuff. But I really like. I think it's a really shitty thing that's hanging over everyone all the time, and it's something that I think about constantly. With I realize how fortunate I am in the situation that I have. That we've got a family. We've got we have the ability to have a nice Christmas and everything like that. And I just hope that things can progress. I feel like we've done such good work in the world up until recently, and now things seem to be unraveling a little bit. And I would like to see things come together. So that is on the bigger level, the more, I guess, stereotypical way of answering that question.
I thought you'd be like, a new guitar. And you're like,
I would
world
like a
peace.
new guitar. I would. My wife gave me a ukulele last Christmas. It was one of the
Nice.
best Christmas presents that I've ever had. So yes, okay. And now that you think about it, scrap that previous thing that I said, I would like a guitar.
Screw world peace. Give me a guitar. Very good.
Yes.
Thanks for letting me spontaneously attack you with rapid fire questions.
Yes, and thank you for sharing your story with me as well. I know this is going out on both of our feeds, so it's kind of a joined episode, but still, it's very cool. I'm honored that you would talk to me about that, all the things that's happening, and I wish you all the best. I really admire you, and I think it's going to be fantastic. So good luck. I hope everything makes it to Paraguay, including the cat and you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this, and also just for being like my buddy in the podcasting sphere all these years. I mean, when I was thinking about like, oh gosh, I have this big news and I have to share it, and I have no idea how, like, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, I would just love to talk to Shaun about it. Like, it's just been great to like have you as my rival and now as my friend. And there's no one else I'd rather share this news with. So thank you so much for all of it.
That's very kind. Yes. It is one of the things that I count as one of the good things that's come from the podcast is getting to know you and the Expat Cast. So it's been very cool. And I hope we stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Thanks, Nicole. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. I'm going to be back in this feed with a short update on the charity drive before Christmas. So I'm not going to say happy holidays or have a good festive season just yet. But I do hope that you're enjoying this time. And I'll talk to you then. Auf Wiederhören.